Johnny Depp wins his defamation case against Amber Heard. I'm Fiona Zaring.
I'm Mariah Davis, and this is your 24/7 celebrity news.
The jury awarded Johnny Depp $15 million in damages. They found that Amber's claims in her article against Johnny were false and conveyed a defamatory implication of Johnny. So Mariah, after 6 weeks of this trial, did we see this verdict coming?
I'm on social media today. Obviously, my entire feed is flooded with this case. And the first thing I thought of was like, oh, shocker. Because I think we all saw this coming. I mean, it's no secret. I'm not going to speak too much on Amber Heard's legal team, but I just feel like it was so obvious to anyone paying attention that Johnny Depp had the more supreme legal team. I mean, they really did an excellent job. It was very clear to me from like early days that this was going to be the outcome.
Right, and it's interesting because it's not necessarily at the end of the day about what the public believes. It's about whose team was able to argue this more believably to the jury. And Johnny's team, as Mariah said, did do a really good job. But Amber did win one of her points. In Amber's countersuit, she won one of her 3 claims and was awarded $2 million in damages. She won over those articles in the Daily Mail where Johnny's former lawyer described her claims of domestic abuse as a hoax. So while it is, of course, obvious that Johnny, he won more money, he overall won the case, Amber did win at least that point in her countersuit against Johnny. They've both made some pretty outrageous claims on the stand, accusing each other of abuse throughout this. It's interesting that the point she did win is the articles from Johnny's former lawyer, right? Like, that is what the jury found in Amber's favor. What do you think of that?
It is really interesting. I mean, again, it doesn't really have much to do with whose side you're on, if you're team Johnny, if you're team Amber, but if you are are approached with this kind of legal battle, at least you're walking away with a win. I mean, regardless, this case was not about who abused who, what abuse actually happened. It was a defamatory case, and at the end of the day, we have reached a legal outcome. Amber Heard isn't walking away with absolutely nothing. I know she's not pleased with the results here. I know Johnny is very pleased. Fans feel like the justice system has really been correct in this process. It's interesting to see what else is going to come after this, because Amber mentioned before this case even began that she's just ready to move on. She even mentioned it while she was on the stand. She's just ready to move on. But I'm wondering, will she, or will this in one way have a new chapter?
Right, and this isn't the first time that these two have been in court. There was a separate case across the seas that went in Amber's favor, So they've both been dealing with legal issues against each other for so much time now. Of course, I think Amber would have liked to have won more than one of her points in her countersuit, but at least, like you said, she did walk away with something. If you guys need a refresher, because it has been a long 6 weeks for us to get to this point, Johnny was suing Amber for $50 million over that article she wrote, labeling him as an abuser. The defamatory claim there was that Johnny, lost work, had a monetary loss as a result of that article. And Amber then countersued for $100 million, saying that Johnny executed a smear campaign against her, labeling her as a liar when she, of course, stands by her claims of abuse. This trial was a long 6 weeks. Both Amber and Johnny took the stand, and there were some pretty heavy allegations lobbed at each other. Mariah, we've been seeing so much commentary from fans on social media, very passionate fans of Johnny's, and people who feel like Amber was dealt a raw hand in all of this because there has been so much negativity thrown at her online. There's a petition that's reached a record-breaking number of signatures to have her removed from the next Aquaman. It's interesting, where do we think their careers are going to go after this? Because this entire trial has basically been both of them claiming that the other's actions had a negative impact on their careers. Where are their careers going to go from here?
That is very interesting. I think it's pretty safe to say I don't see Amber having much of a career out of this, and that is it's hard to speak on whether or not somebody deserves their whole life to go up in flames and them not to be able to pursue their passions anymore. But on the other hand, I do think, however, that Jonny's career is going to start to have some major movement again. I mean, seeing how fans have glorified him, they've almost raised him up on a level of like divinity. Like they have put him on the highest pedestal. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jonny Depp make some major returns. I'm hoping that I see him back in Pirates, because I just don't think Pirates of the Caribbean is the same without Jonny, but I think we're gonna see some major projects from him moving forward.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Pirates, because that is one of the things that Jonny and his legal team brought up. You know, he was devastated when that final movie didn't happen. So I don't know. I think you may not be alone in that one. He may be trying to make some calls right now. Of course, now that the verdict has been reached, people want to hear from Jonny and Amber. Jonny was not present in court today, but he did release a statement that said in part, quote, "The jury gave me my life back." He said the goal of bringing this case was to reveal the truth regardless of the outcome. Speaking the truth was something that I owed my children and to all of those who have remained steadfast in their support of me. Now that's just part of the statement that he released on Instagram. Mariah, he has made it clear that this has been all about clearing his name, getting his side of the story out there. Do you think, though, he would actually be happy if the outcome didn't go as far his way as it did today?
I mean, I think obviously no, right? Because you go through this process, you want a certain outcome. I feel like Jonny knew what he was going to be walking away with. I think his legal team knew all along. I think also, like I said earlier, from very early days when the trial began, I think it was very clear to not only people within the courtroom, but people outside that what the outcome was going to be, that Jonny was going to walk away victorious. I do feel like he got to speak his truth. At the end of the day, unless you were in those rooms with them when there was violence going on, we're not going to know who was physically violent or aggressive towards anybody. We're just not going to know. I hope that this chapter has come to an end, just because I feel like it's very messy and destructive for both of their lives. I mean, even Jonny, listen, Jonny doesn't have, it does seem like literally everybody in the world is pro Jonny, but there are people who still are very disappointed in how the outcome of this trial has ended. It's interesting, though, he was given the opportunity to clear his name. I think a lot of people would say he did that. I mean, where do you stand on this?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I feel like it's difficult because one of the things that I felt throughout this trial, just coming from a personal opinion, it's like when he's on the stand, he had very, very compelling things to say, but there were moments of Amber on the stand that I also think were very, very compelling. And what's interesting is, of course, the jury's verdict in this case really did matter. But it's going to come down to the court of public opinion for these two. They're both celebrities. Their well-being, their careers depend on how the public reacts to this case. And I think that Amber did as good a job as she could of trying to tell her story on the stand. She's obviously very upset by this outcome, and people who absolutely believe her and support her are devastated as well, of course, on her behalf. I think it's hard to say that either of them did absolutely nothing wrong in this marriage. They've both played recordings. They've both shown text messages that paint the other in a very, very negative light. That's why I do not envy and never have envied the jury in this case. Like we said, Amber is devastated by what the jury decided today. She said in a statement that she is heartbroken over the verdict, writing, "The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband." She continued in her statement to say that she feels like, her freedom of speech was sort of taken away from her. We have to remember this stems from an op-ed where she labeled herself a victim of domestic abuse and, of course, did not name Jonny. Now, her argument was that she had, of course, every right to write about her own experience, but because it did impact, or at least the jury has decided it did impact Jonny's, monetary gain through his film career, the case went in Jonny's way. I think Amber you know, she was so quick to put this statement up, Mariah. It feels like maybe she and her legal team had a feeling that this was the way it was going to go. Of course, there's going to be lots of fallout from this trial still to come as fans shared their thoughts online and as Jonny and Amber see what's next for them now that all of this is said and done. I'm Fiona Zaring.
I'm Mariah Davis.
And keep it here at Hollywire for more 24/7 celebrity news.